a listening session up in Hudson just a moment ago too, and trying to catch up on some meetings. Listen, I think public television was hoping to tape us, and it's pointing to me to put this on. And so what we're going to do is figure this out, and then what I'll try to do is just repeat questions or comments or whatever so that they can pick it up if that works. Otherwise, it might take too long running this around. But glad to be in town. Thank you so much for showing up. In a minute, we're going to get to your questions or comments and that. We're going to try to get to as many of you in the hour that we have slotted here because I've got to get to another meeting in town, unfortunately. But it's been a busy time. If you're still filling out one of these sheets, go ahead and finish that. Hold it up. Someone will collect it. We'll get you in the queue. If we don't get to your question specifically today, we'll try to follow up with you as soon as possible with any comment or any question or idea that you might have. But it has been a busy time. It is good to be home. We are catching up with a lot of meetings. We had some good meetings up in St. Croix County, here in Pierce County, especially with some businesses. What it's going to take to get this economy back on track, creating good paying jobs. One of the areas of focus that I've had is on the credit markets, trying to make sure that they're working as efficiently as possible for our small businesses and family farmers. And they have been too tight for too long. And yet that is the lifeblood, being able to get the operating loans, the lines of credit, to keep the doors open, to do some hiring. And they aren't working as efficiently as possible. But I also felt it was important that we move forward on Wall Street reform so that we are never again held hostage to the practices on Wall Street affecting the businesses on Main Street back home here. And with the passage of Wall Street reform, we finally have the tools in place that if those Wall Street banks want to act like casinos again, they can go ahead and they will fail. And they will fail without any government intervention, but with the ability to dissolve them in a systemic fashion without it jeopardizing the entire U.S. economy along with it. We're going to have a systemic risk regulator, a council set up to try to look for pitfalls and red flags before they have a chance to manifest, as was the case over a year and a half ago. We're going to have dissolution authority finally so that we can put them out of business and dissolve them in an orderly fashion. There's going to be the creation of a Consumer Financial Protection Agency. Finally, an entity whose sole job it is to keep an eye on those financial consumer products being sold to us to make sure that they're on the up and up and that they're legitimate and that they aren't taking undue advantage of people throughout the country and that. And we're also going to bring those derivatives and hedge funds and those other fancy financial instruments out of the shadows in which they've been operating and into the sunshine where they belong so that everyone can see it and everyone can scrutinize it. I think that's important as well. So we've been working on that. We've also been working on ways to be able to rein in spending and make sure that we're acting in a fiscally responsible manner. These deficits we have now are clearly unsustainable, and there's still too much waste in the federal budget. But one of the fastest growing areas of spending at the federal, state, and local level, including most private businesses and family budgets alike, is rising health care costs. And that's why I think we still need to be focused on health care, making sure people have access to it, making sure it's sustainable, making sure we're getting good results for the dollars that are being spent, public and private, likewise. And it's one area that I've been especially focused on because I think we have to not only change in certain respects the way health care is delivered in this country, but especially how we pay for it. So it's not just volume-based payments anymore, but it's value payments, outcome, the quality of care that's given. And I know we can do this because our providers in this area are showing us models of care that work. They're very integrated, coordinated, patient-focused. They're producing some of the best quality results in the entire nation at substantially lower costs because of those models of care that they've been practicing. I wish that was true nationwide because if it was, we wouldn't be in this fiscal hole we are now or battling the rising costs that we're facing. But they're not. And we're trying to reform that so that we're paying for the value of care given, not the volume of care anymore. I think that's important if we're going to be bringing spending under control. That and another area that I've been especially focused on, and that's how we're spending and acquiring the weapon systems for our military today. To make sure that they've got the tools they need to do their job safely and effectively. But the current weapon systems that are in the pipeline that we're ordering today are currently $300 billion over budget. This idea of a blank check going to these defense contractors has got to end. And it's got to end right away because we're not getting a good bang for that dollar. And oftentimes it's going to weapon systems that were better suited for the 1950s, dealing with Soviet mechanized divisions sweeping across Europe than against the Al-Qaeda threat and other terrorist threats that we face today. And that's got to change too because it's a big spending category. I led the effort on earmark reform with Jeff Flake down in Arizona, my friend. I've led the effort on farm bill reform.
so we can end these huge taxpayer subsidies going to big agribusinesses in this country, so that we can support family farmers again. And we've worked hard within our office budget to find savings that we directly control, that we return back to the Treasury for deficit reduction. And we've already identified, we've already sent back over $1.2 million and counting today. I know it's a small part of the overall budget, but I think all of us have got to put skin on the table if we're going to get out of this with the idea of shared sacrifice. That more than ever is what's needed today in our country, that we're all in this together, that we're all going to have some shared sacrifice in order to get out of the fiscal hole that we face. But most importantly, we've got to get this economy back on track, creating good paying jobs. That's probably the best thing we can do to deal with these budget deficits that we have today. And it's not where we'd like to see it at this point. So thank you all for coming. We're going to get right away to your questions and comments. Given the large crowd and limited time, we're going to try to get to as many of you as possible. I think Brad up here is going to be the timekeeper and kind of flash you some flashcards to let you know when you got a minute or 30 seconds left. If you could adhere to that as much as possible, and that way we can get to as many of you as possible, that would be great. So let's start with Joan Schneider. Is Joan still here?
Yes.
Hi, Joan. Thank you for joining us.
Mine is short and sweet, and that's unusual for me. I just want to thank you for your efforts on Wall Street reform, the courage to do this, and healthcare reform, as well as the education jobs bill in the House. I just want to thank you very much, because I know that's not always been popular.
Right. Well, thank you, Joan. Thanks for coming. Jill Schneider? Is Jill here?
Oh, that's me.
Jill? Hi, Jill.
Hi. I just want to say something briefly about subsidies to agriculture.
Yes.
And I'm curious about the percentage that's going to big ag compared to small farms. This is a small farming area. I just want to say, small local operations from berry producers to meat, poultry, vegetable growers. They provide local jobs. Many growers are moving to sustainable practices which save on energy and lead to a cleaner environment. Also give them a bigger profit so they can be in business. I think we need to tap that well of ingenuity and creativity of everyday Americans in this way. ConAgra and Monsanto don't need our help. These small farmers do. Small local farmers care about their communities, the health of their waterways, the food their children eat in their school lunch programs. Big ag cares about the bottom line. Fastest growing movement in agriculture is in this local production, local consumption, healthier food. I say let's send more tax money to these entrepreneurs, women who are starting businesses. I work in my daughter's small growing operation. And thank you.
All right, thank you, Jill. And listen, Jill, you're preaching to the choir here. I couldn't agree with you more. I think we have to do more to support local production and family farmers back home here, maintain a diversified food source, but also, local production. Family farms happen to practice agriculture in a more sustainable fashion, I've noticed too, which is very important. And to get to your original question, almost 80% of the farm subsidies under the Title I commodity programs are going to the largest 10% operators in this country. It just shows you how skewed it is to the very top. But when you got someone like me taking them on, they circle the wagons awfully fast, the powerful special interests out in Washington. But it's wrong. We've got to change it. We're not there yet. We've got to keep working and fighting and get back to support for family farmers and local sustainable agricultural practices. And there's a health reason to do this too, because we found that when people buy locally, they tend to eat healthier. And that's something, Lord knows, we all need to be doing a better job of. So thank you for coming and sharing that with us. Wayne Micklean? Wayne here? Hi,
Yeah.
Wayne.
My comment is certainly less important than all the issues we have in the nation right now, but locally here, many, many years now, we haven't been able to get Wisconsin TV. Mm-hmm. And someone has to say it, right? It's not a technology issue. It's a political issue. As you know, that's why we can't get it. It's not a state issue, a political issue. It's a national issue with the FCC.
Yeah.
And I hate to use the word entitled, but as a resident of the state of Wisconsin, aren't we entitled to get news and information about our state? You know, how are you doing? How is our local representatives doing in Madison? You know, all those sort of things. I just wanted to bring it up. I know it's, you know, not as important as anything else, but it's important to some of the people in this room.
Yeah. Well, Wayne. Oh, for the benefit of the public TV, and that Wayne was asking about when they're going to get access to Wisconsin TV and Wisconsin news as a consequence too. I hear that a lot when I'm up in this area. There's a lot of frustration, and I think you share that with a lot of people on that. And I think it should be a right. If you live in a certain state, you should have access to the information that's going on that affects your state directly. We've been battling the FCC on this and some of their exclusivity provisions that they have. Obviously, we got a few Packer fans up in this area too, and they feel somewhat excluded when the Packers and Vikings conflict with their schedule. But these are not insignificant issues, because what really makes our democracy work, and I think work well, is an informed electorate, an informed citizenry. That's very important. That way people feel they've got information to make decisions in that. So we'll continue to work with you and others on it. I know Senator Feingold, too, has been working on this issue, trying to deal with the FCC, trying to present some clarification so that the borders have some meaning again when it comes to content and information that people have access to. Thank you, Wayne. It sounded like you're speaking on behalf of quite a few folks who are here, too. Eunice Bowman or Bachman? Boschman, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Thanks for joining
my
us.
My question had to do with, for the last couple of years I've been trying to expand my small business. I'm a painting contractor. And every time I log on to like the state site to access like perhaps putting in bids for doing state jobs, I can't figure out how to do it. And I've been looking for years. There doesn't seem to be like a very easy way for people to get into that, you know, particular faction of things. Because I'd like to do state stuff, and
Sure.
you know, I'm a minority business owner, and you know, I'd like to employ people. So
Yeah.
that's my question.
Well, that's a great question. And let me tell you, we'll look into what the state, maybe the Department of Commerce are offering in their website and how difficult they've made it. I know we've been trying to streamline a lot of the federal contracting opportunities, so small businesses such as yourself have an ability to compete equally out there for the contract opportunities. So we're always looking for feedback, and whether it's working or not working from people like you. So maybe I'll have someone follow up, see what sites that you've been going to specifically, and see what they're offering, what we might be able to do to streamline that. But glad to hear you're looking in those areas too, because there could be some promising opportunities. How long have you had the business?
Forever.
Forever? Is it? What kind of business is it?
Painting business.
Is it really?
We get no bailouts, we get no unemployment benefits when we're slow.
Yeah.
We got to make it as we go.
Right, right. Well, we'd be happy to work with you and see what other opportunities might exist out there. That could make a big difference. Great, thank you.